Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 297. And today, Pete and I are together. Hello. And we are talking about, is motivation a myth? That is our question that we are posing. We're posing it to ourselves. That doesn't make sense. We're posing it. We're posing the question to us. We're not posing, sorry. We're posing that question to ourselves. Is motivation a myth? And I'll start by saying something that I haven't said to Pete yet, but it's quite funny. Well, it's not funny really. My truck that I normally drive around is currently in the garage because it failed its MOT and it needed something doing, which was meant to be a very quick job. And it now turns out that it's going to be at the garage for a good few days because they are needing to order this special part, which is going to cost £1,500, which is another thing. But so what we've done just before coming on the podcast, is I've been into the garage and I've got my bike out that I'm going to use to get to work and back because Steph needs her car. So there's no real, what's the motivation involved in that? That's a necessity really.
Yes.
But it's going to be quite nice because I'm actually, it's really sunny here today. Is it sunny down in Bath, Pete?
It is, but it's really windy, which is
yeah. It's windy, but it's clear blue sky. And so now I'm getting the bike out. So maybe for the next few days, I might be cycling to work and back, which is only probably going to take me 15 or 20 minutes each way, something like that. But I'm actually quite looking forward to it. And just coming into summer, that's one of those things that we're going to talk about this today, but maybe if I do it for a few days, it might stick a little bit and I might want to do it a bit more, but I haven't been on
exactly. But it's like, what is it? It's what is it Dan John said all the time? And
necessity is the mother of invention or something.
Exactly. Yeah. It's exactly that. So you haven't got a car, so you've got to do something else. I haven't got a car, so I have to walk everywhere. It's the way it goes.
Yeah. But no, it's quite fortuitous that literally happened just before we came on the podcast. And then today we're going to be talking about, like I say, is motivation a myth, and kind of why discipline, habit and environment kind of wins every time over motivation. So, I mean, where do we want to kick off with this, Pete? Because I think people very often, especially if they don't exercise and they're wanting to start exercising, they think they're going to rely on motivation, or maybe they don't feel very motivated, or they do feel very motivated, or motivation comes and goes. What's your thoughts on this to kick us off?
Well, just thinking off the top of my head now, motivation, I think, is what starts something. So, it's January is a motivation for people. I'm going to change my life and all that. And as we know, I don't know what we could make up a percentage, but a certain amount of people, the vast majority of people, don't stick to that. And there's a whole industry behind that, isn't there, to make a shitload of money off people in January. So there's that. And then by now you're getting to April. It's getting greener outside. It's nice to be outside. I mean, it's nice to be outside as far as I'm concerned all the time, but it's nice to be outside. The sun's coming out. This is where people then get the motivation, go, right, I'm going on holiday in a few months' time. I want to lose a bit of weight or whatever, however people look at it. So there's that. That's the motivation there to get started. But again, things start to happen. People, you get school holidays and Easter, and there'll be May. There's a couple of bank holidays in May coming up and all of that. And that's when that can go out the window as well. So the motivation to begin something is great, but it's finite. So even if you go to the doctor and they tell you you're going to die in 3 years if you don't start something, you start something, but you've got to keep that in mind, or you've got to keep it going. Because if you go to the doctors today, they tell you you're going to die in 3 years. In 2 months' time, if you haven't been back, you've potentially forgotten about that, right? Even though it's a big deal, but it doesn't change some people. So I would say motivation is a great way to start, but you need something else in place to keep going.
I was just thinking, actually, I hadn't thought about it before, but the word motivation, I just kind of wrote down just then when you were talking like motive for action. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of like,
Motive, yeah.
yeah, it's your, I don't know where we, the actual, what you call it, the origins of the word and the meaning of, the precise kind of the origins of it, but that motive for action. So what is your motive for action, which I quite like actually, if you kind of flip
Yeah.
it like that. But like you just said, so from a behavior and psychology perspective, motivation is unreliable, isn't it? And it's inconsistent. So I think when we had Mark Rifkind on, he used a quote, we've used it a few times, where he said, did he say like motivation is for amateurs and discipline is for professionals or something like that? So when you
Sounds
wake
about
up,
right, yeah.
well, yeah, like when you wake up in the morning, and I remember him saying this as well. When you wake up in the morning, never ask yourself if you feel like training that day. It's just not, that's not the question. It's just if you're scheduled to do it, you do it.
Yep.
And I know that kind of sounds a bit oversimplistic, and like you said, life gets in the way for people, but motivation is fleeting, it is inconsistent, it is unreliable, and sometimes you're going to feel more motivated than others. So if
Yeah.
you rely on motivation to be um, your motive for action, if you rely on that to get stuff done, it's going to just very much depend on how you feel on any given day, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's finite, isn't it? And it's fleeting and it's inconsistent.
Hmm.
So I was talking to someone about this the other day. So Tuesday, as you know, because we were meant to do a podcast, but we didn't. Because nothing to do with us, but anyway. It was a busy day for me. And I'd had a busy 2 weeks. I was up at like 6 a.m. for 2 weeks straight because we had a long walk at the weekend on Sunday as well and all that. So I was tired. And I had to train in the afternoon, like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I don't usually do that. I usually train in the morning because that's where my training energy lies. My other energy is in the afternoon, but my training energy is in the morning. But I had to flip it around. And it was horrible. And I hated it. My motivation to do it was so low, it was unbelievable. But Wednesday, so Sean was away on Tuesday night, so she wasn't here Wednesday morning, so I could have a lie in, right? So I set my alarm for 6 a.m. as usual, woke up at 5:45, let the dog in, and we had a snuggle for like 2.5 hours, and it was lush because I get the best sleep then. So we'll do a little spoon, he's little spoon and big spoon.
So when you just to go back to, so you trained on Tuesday evening,
Yes,
but your energy is higher in the morning, and you normally train on in the morning.
I'd
So
say my training energy, like there's
yes, yeah,
different types, but my
yeah.
energy for doing weights and stuff or anything like that is in the morning.
So what made you? This is kind of what I was going to ask. What made you train on Tuesday evening rather than just thinking, oh, I've missed the morning, I can't be bothered, I don't feel like it.
Because what I'm doing in my program, Monday and Thursday, well, there's day 1 and 3 are the same, and day 2 and 4 are the same.
Hmm.
If I do day 2 and don't have a day off in between, day 3 is hard because, like, without going into it too much, I'm doing some tricep stuff on day 2, so then doing presses on day 3 is really hard. But if I do them a day later, so Tuesday is the tricep thing, Thursday will be presses again.
Hmm.
So I can do days 1 and 2 consecutively, 3 and 4 consecutively, but I need a day off between 2 and 3.
Hmm.
Okay. So that's why. So I had to get it done that day. Otherwise I miss a day.
Hmm.
Which is also fine because we can miss days, but I could do it. It was because it's all body weight stuff, actually, mainly, but it's hard body weight stuff.
And I suppose the other thing, which the next kind of point, I suppose, is how, which I'm going to circle back to that, but it's how environment and external things shape our behavior. And this is the other thing, more than willpower. So willpower, I suppose you could use that in terms of is it the same? Is willpower the same as motivation? Probably not. Actually, we can look
No,
at that.
motivation's what starts you off, and willpower is kind of what keeps you going, but it runs out. Willpower, I would just say it's energy, and when you're out of it, when you're out of energy, you just don't
Yeah.
bother.
But the thing that I was going to say from the external point of view is both you and I have Paul McElroy coaching us.
Yes.
So if you didn't have a coach and if you didn't have a program, which probably the vast majority of people don't have a coach or a program, if you had
Yep.
neither of those two things, not training on that day would have had no consequence or no wouldn't have been an issue, would it? You would have just, I don't feel like doing it today, and you may not have done it.
Um, this is hard for me to answer because I've been training for a very long time now. But based on people who don't necessarily train or train sporadically, then yes, you just go, well, I just didn't bother today, but I don't do very regularly anyway, so it doesn't matter. To me, it would have mattered, but I still wouldn't have done it. But I would have known. So I would have had that conversation in my head. I should do it, but I'm not going to. And then you can feel guilty for a couple of days afterwards or whatever, can't you? But so for me, it was like, well, I have to do it because I have to send it to Paul. I've got a legitimate excuse not to do it, but is it? Or have I just had a busy day, which most people have all the time anyway? And I tried to not have busy days, you know.
Yeah.
I tried to, it just so happened that a lot of things lined up on that particular day.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to take Sid for a walk. He's usually at doggy daycare that day. I had to take him out for a walk because he wasn't, because Sean was away. So lots of things conspired to take up my time that day. So I was up at 6 a.m. and I was on the go till 7 p.m. like consistently. But the thing I was going to say earlier was I had like 2 weeks of that of kind of being busy, which I'm not usually. I'm usually busy, but not like stacked. But then on the Wednesday, which was yesterday, I could have a lie in. And then yesterday I ended up walking loads because the sun was out. And I felt replenished because I'd had some more sleep and I just felt better. And I know there's the whole sleep thing of, well, you're meant to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time and all of that. But I just fancied not getting up at 6 a.m. So I had a lie in, but only for like another couple of hours because I can. And then I did a bit of walking, came back, did a bit of stuff, did a bit more walking. Then we had the evening walk with everyone and it just felt great. You know, so it doesn't take, if you're at it all the time for months and months and months, you need some time off to replenish. But if you can do it, if you can chunk it a little bit, then, you know, give yourself even just an hour in a day somewhere or whatever, just to go for a walk or do whatever, you can get some energy back, you know.
Yeah, so I think you just mentioned the walking, and I did a video the other day where I think it was something that it was someone mentioned it on the podcast, and then it went into my head, which it might have been another podcast I listened to. I can't remember, but I've heard it somewhere, and it wasn't said in this exact way, but it kind of I kind of reframed it slightly that we've spoke about it on the podcast before, that a lot of people use age as an excuse, and I'll use the word excuse, you know, because it's like, oh, I'm just aching, or I'm very tired, or I put on weight, whatever, but that's just because of my age, you know. And I think people start saying that from when they're like in their 40s, really, you know, like
I
younger
used to
than
say
us.
that in my mid-30s, mate.
Yeah, just my age. So the crux of the video was that lifestyle is the reason and age is the excuse, you know. So
Yep.
for most things, and for most people most of the time, actually. And the environment shaping the behavior more than willpower. You were just mentioning before we came on about people who do your walking group, who once they've done a certain number of walks, they get like a Blue Peter badge, don't they? Kind of like
Yeah.
you know, like a little award badge that they can wear.
It's like a sticker smiley face for kids in school.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that, because that's to do with behavior and psychology and driving people to positive behaviors through reward, and we
Yep.
spoke about that. And then if you can stick with that for long enough, it then becomes part of your life
Yep.
anyway, doesn't it? Talk to us a little bit about the badges. I love that.
Well, the thing about, I was thinking about this the other day, is about goal. People who set, we've talked about this before as well. People set a goal, and then they might set the goal and go, right, I'm going to be, I don't know, do this in 6 months. I'll be this in 6 months. I'll have lost 3 stone, or I'll be this strong, much stronger, or whatever it is. And then just setting it, they go, right, I'm done. So they forget about it. And then there'll be other people who go, right, I'm going to get to that goal, and they'll do everything they can to get there. But once they're there in 12 weeks or whatever, they're like, well, what happens next? So this is where we talk about learn to love the process. And this wasn't intentional. This just happened, but it kind of comes out of everything that we've talked about and everything we've done for years, right? So when people have done 10 walks, they get a badge, an actual physical pin badge, 10 walks. When they've done 25, they get another one. When they've done 50, they get another one. The next one is 100, and then it'll be 200, right? Because
has anyone done 200 yet?
No, 100. We're giving hundreds out at the minute. We've
Yeah.
given out a lot of 50 badges. We haven't got to 200 yet, but
yeah.
The reason why it goes 10, 25, 50 are quick. So you get a quick win at 10, right? Bosh, well done. And we'll have a little ceremony. We'll give them out on the walks, and everyone gives like as a clap, and we'll get a photo and all of that. So it makes people feel good as well. And then it's 25, and then it's 50. But like I say, it moves out. Number one, because of cost, because otherwise we'd be buying a load of badges all the time. And they're not expensive, but like you need a lot of them. You know, you got to buy 100 at a time. But
I'd imagine, just quickly, I'd imagine, because you say spreading it out because you want to encourage the behavior at the start and get kind of good, some regular wins, and then by the time they've done 50, they're then they've bought into the community, they've got friends there, they know everyone, and then probably, like you say, the next one's 100, then 200. But I would dare say that down the line you might have a 500 badge.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But it would probably jump from 200. The next logical step is 500, isn't it? You know what I mean?
So I don't know yet. We'll worry about that when we get there.
Yeah.
But you've just said the perfect thing there. So what happens is people get a quick win. So they don't even have a goal. They're just like, I'm going to come along. And then they get a badge for doing 10 walks, a little celebration of, oh, you've reached that, well done. And they're like, I didn't even realize I had that goal. So then they go, well, I want a 25. So most people think 50 is a lot. So they'll go, right, I'm going to aim for 50. I'm going to do it within a year or whatever, right? That's one walk a week. But we'll have 2 during the week as well during the summer. So they might get there quicker. So people set that goal. But by the time, so this is the thing of when you get to the goal, they go, oh, I've got my 50 badge. That's great. And then they're already booked on next week's walk. It's not like they've got to the goal and then they go, what's next? They go, I just keep walking. So then what happens is the goal then changes, and it doesn't become about the number of walks, because that's going to happen anyway, because that's now a habit. That's what they do for fun. And like you say, they've made friends and stuff like that, so they keep coming along. The new goals are like, I'm going to walk a bit further. I'm going to come on one of the 10 miles that you do, or I'm going to go and walk up a mountain or whatever. The goals tend to become a bit more challenging for them rather than just going for a walk all the time. And some of them just do that anyway. But what it does is it gets people to fall in love with the idea and the process rather than the actual goal.
And I think that is so, because there is this, I mean, there's a lot of, I'll use the term like wanky personal trainers, you know, online or whatever, you know, there's a lot of young influencers out there who love to spout the, you know, and it's kind of, I mean, Mark Rifkind is nearly 70, so he's been a kind of competitive athlete all his life, so he can say, you know, motivation is for amateurs, discipline is professionals, and it kind of comes with a degree of experience and life experience and all the rest of it. But it's a very kind of you know, cliched thing that you know 20-something influence will be like, well, discipline, it's all about discipline is more important than motivation and all the rest of it, when really they've got no life experience, they've got no hardships, they've had no challenges in their life, so it just becomes a bit of a cliche. But I think, although we kind of know it's true, it's a kind of like a bit uncaring, and it's a bit judgmental, because you think, well, if you can't achieve this, then, or if you can't keep exercising, or if you can't keep turning up, then you've got no discipline. But I think it's a much more tangible, caring, and probably empowering and worthwhile way of looking at it, is more around the habit and the community. So then you haven't got any discipline, maybe just haven't found your tribe yet. You know, you haven't found the thing that really speaks to you, or because, like you say, people turn up for your walks because there's friends there. They enjoy the talking. They enjoy the scenery. They enjoy the camaraderie. They become a part of something.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I think like, young trainers and that, if we're talking about that, that's given the due the fact that they don't know any different, right?
Mm.
So, but then you'll get people who get into our sort of age bracket who will say, well, it's too late and I can't. So they're doing the same thing. So the young trainers saying, oh, it's all about discipline and don't worry, like, get up at 6 and get your sleep and all of this sort of stuff. So yeah, but you can drink as much as you like and do whatever you like, and you still look like that. And if you can do that in your 20s, and if you don't drink as much as you like and all that, of course you're going to look great because genetically it's just the way it goes, right? But that's based on their experience and what they know at the time. So what people who get into our age bracket, who'll be working balls to the wall and kids and all of this sort of stuff, all they know is like, it's too late. I can't do that. You're saying people haven't found a tribe. People aren't even looking for one. They're just in the day to day, and
they're just trying to survive and pay the mortgage every month.
Exactly. So they haven't got time to worry about. I need to find my tribe. They don't even know what that means, right?
Mm.
So, or their tribe is the people who they're at work with all day, moaning about how tired they are and stuff, and
going for a pint after work
in the nicest possible way. I'm not saying that's just reality, right? And that was me years ago. So, I can't remember where I was going with that, but it's like but that's just putting it into perspective.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah.
So I just thought about the video Paul Field put out, friend of the show Paul Field, for you about unique results, and that was all about not the gym and not what he does in the gym and lifting weights and all that, which he does do, and he's got stronger and fitter. It was about the community aspect of it and how you're not judged. You do what you do. And it doesn't matter what the person over there is doing because you do your thing, and everyone gets better for it. And there's a good community within it. So I think that's huge. And you've been doing that for years anyway.
Yeah, I mean that, and because I really do recognize that people at different stages in life need different things, don't they? Or want different things, So
yeah,
you've got kind of like lots of people, students and people in their 20s and maybe 30s who their motivation, their motive for action, their motive for training is very often tied up with, if they're not, I mean, most people aren't competitive athletes. So if they're not competitive athletes training, to try and reach a championship or a sport or whatever, most of it's tied up when you're young in the way you look, and trying to look better and trying to look better to attract a member of the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever, whoever you're trying to attract,
you're trying to attract something.
So yeah, you're trying to attract something, something or someone, yeah. So when you're young, that's kind of where it more comes from. But when you are in and I'm not saying that that's not a part of training for people in their 40s or 50s or 60s, because I think most people have some degree of vanity, whether they like to admit it or not. People want to, you want to feel comfortable in your clothes. You want to feel that you show up with a degree of confidence. Although it's less so but it's less about trying to attract someone else, and it's just more about, I suppose, just trying to feel good in yourself. I'd say that's probably more the motivation. And then as you kind of maybe get to more like your late 40s, your 50s, your 60s, you're kind of probably thinking more about longevity and being healthy and strong and living as long and as well as you can. So the kind of, I suppose, the motivation, unless you are a sports person or an athlete, changes as you get older, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I've never really thought about that before. What would you say what is your, like I say, we don't rely on motivation to train, but what is your motivation for training?
Well, there's lots. It was mainly because I used to smoke and drink a lot and I got out of shape and I didn't like it and I felt old. And I feel better now. My dad died at 65 from smoking, from a poor lifestyle and stress. So he basically, that killed him as far as I'm concerned. So that was the main thing. But then later on, so that was in 2004 when he died. But later on, I got to the point where, you know, I was in a marriage that I wasn't happy in and stuff like that. I'm going a bit deep here, but I was in a marriage that I wasn't happy in and stuff like that. So when that ended, that was when I was beginning to start to look after myself more, and that ended. And then I was kind of on my own, and I was, I don't know, it was just kind of like, right, I just need to sort myself out. I just wasn't happy. And I didn't attach it to how I looked or anything like that, but I was like, I could feel fitter and better because I just felt knackered all the time. So now I would say it is because we do this podcast, and you have to, you know, if you're putting yourself out there, we can't come on here and sit and tell everyone to do, like, you know, oh, here's what you should do and all of that. And then we go
You got kind of, what's it called? Talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah. We can't go off and do something completely different. I train people, so I need to be on the ball for that. And I talk about walking a lot and how it helps me and all that. And I do that a lot. So my motivation is now it's not other people, but I have a responsibility towards other people now. So like the walking group, trying to make that as big as possible. If I ended that tomorrow, like it affects a hell of a lot of people now. And that's a big responsibility, and I take it very seriously. So obviously I've got to be able to do that. So the motivation comes from, I think I'm going to say it comes from purpose, the purpose of like, right, there's a way of doing this, because I've always wanted, since I was made redundant, since I started training and then I became a trainer, I've wanted to try and help as many people as possible. And a lot of people say that, and it's very difficult to do. Because you can, you know, it's like, oh, well, help one person, that's great. And it's like, yes, that is great. But if you can figure a way to make a massive change somewhere, like somehow, which I think is what's happening, why wouldn't you? So that's where I'm at the moment. So that's a big motivation. So it's motivation to keep me going, but it's motivation to help other people as well. And that's basically it.
And I think what we said, I can't remember if it was since we recorded or just before, or we spoke about it before anyway, that most people will do, what was the word, the way you phrased it? Most people will hold a commitment they've made with someone else or a group. They're more likely to stick to that commitment than sometimes a commitment that's made to themselves in private. So I think I've read lots of stuff recently around, if you make a commitment, if you make a public commitment to do something, even if it's just to turn up somewhere, you're far more likely to do that rather than if it's just a personal commitment made behind closed doors in private. And I think that's so we've got that kind of commitment made publicly to others, and also the community wanting to be part of the community. And once you make a commitment, if it's about more than just training, if it's about meeting friends and talking, you know, and if there's a social element there as well with people that you like and that you enjoy spending time with, it's far better than the reason I mentioned earlier that you know, the kind of teenagers and students and people in their 20s. Often you see these gyms where people go in and they just put their like noise cancelling headphones on, and there's 50 people in there, but no one says a word to each other because they've all got their headphones on, you know, and they are there just to train, you know, which is fine for some people. If that's what you want to do, that's absolutely fine. But for people who want to, you know, maybe engage with people a bit more, and we've spoke about loneliness before on the podcast, you know, and you know, if you can have a chat with someone, if you can talk to someone at the start or the end or the midway through the session, or if you're doing a group session or a class or a group walk, and you can spend time talking to other people in the real world rather than just on social media, I think that's so powerful as well.
It's funny actually, because like we'll talk about it sometimes, and I'll say, like, you know, I'll tell people what we're trying to do with it and everything, like, you know, build it around the world and what have you, and make it a bit like park run but for walking. And and people say the I don't know how many people have tried parkrun, but their idea of parkrun is it's great. You turn up, it's very sociable. You do 5K, then you go home. But it takes like half an hour or whatever. 45 minutes by you get there, you get ready, you go. But it'll be like it'll social at the start, and then you do the run, and then you go home. And it might be a bit social afterwards. They say on the walk, so you can talk all the way around because you're not running, you're not out of breath, all of that. And so that's kind of the difference. And I'm not saying like we're better or worse or whatever. It's a different dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're not going for a time. Because in parkrun, you might be going for a time because it's the same route all the time. It's the same distance. Whereas ours is just like they're all different, and they're guided and all of that. There was that. But what you've just said about the so people book in via the app, and people are more likely to let themselves down than they ought to let other people down, right? Like you've just said. And I was talking to someone exactly about that last night, and he said that's why I like it. He said the amount of times I've said I'm going to go and do something, and I'll not get up in the morning, like go for a walk on a Saturday morning or whatever. And he's like, I'll not get out of bed. I'll just go. My alarm will go off, and I'll say, and I'll have that. And he said, I'll have that conversation in my head. You should go. No, you shouldn't. Yes, you should. No, you shouldn't. It's the same person having the conversation, isn't it? It's like, and I'm like, so you actually are aware you're having that conversation and you're still not going to do it. And he's like, and nobody can, people know it happens, but it's hard to explain why you don't, why that one kind of tends to win rather than the one that says go and do it. It's really weird. And there's probably a psychological explanation for it, and a bit of Carl Jung and dark side and shadow and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's, I just find that fascinating because I had that exact conversation with someone last night, and I was like, "So how do you explain it?" He's like, "I don't know," but
that's the willpower, isn't it? That is the willpower, and we all have those conversations. I know we do. Whether it's even just to do with do I eat that? Do I eat those chocolate biscuits that are in the drawer? Or do I not eat those chocolate biscuits? And in your mind, but like we've spoke before, haven't we? I know we have, about separating the stimulus and the response and the gap, and then taking time. And I know that Shane Nugent, nutritionist, says if you can, I really want to eat those chocolate biscuits. Do you really want to eat? Yeah, right. If you really want to eat them, just stop. Give it 10 minutes, and if you still want to eat it, because it's kind of separating that gap, that impulse, and then that response. It's so interesting. Yeah.
Honestly, I've been thinking about this so much because since I created the daily walking app thing, and then the deeper things in it, a lot of that is in there as well. And the first thing is the first one is stop trying to explain everything. Stop trying to define everything. And I've just done that. I said, I don't know what psychologically what you cut. It doesn't matter. You just know that the conversation is happening, and yet this guy knows it's happening in his head. And we've all done it. And you know that 9 times out of 10, the thing to tell you to stay in bed, that bit of you is gonna win for no real reason. It just is, because it's the easier thing to do. And it's the thing of stop trying to define it. Stop trying to define what that is. Because if you can just be the person who gets up and go out and become that thing, you don't have to be able to define what it is and why it works. You just need to know that it does, and it doesn't matter, because then it happens automatically.
You just saying that makes me think of I can hand on heart say I've never ever hit the snooze button on my alarm, because I don't even know where it is. My alarm's on my phone. I don't even know how to snooze.
Yeah.
But some people are habitual people who hit the snooze button on, and there must be some kind of, like you say, in a dialogue, in a confrontation, that whereby the alarm goes off in the morning, and I think some people just set the alarm sort of like 20 minutes before they need to get up, just so they can maybe hit snooze 3 or 4 times. I don't know.
I was going to say, I don't know that there's that many conversations in people's heads that go on with that. They just do it automatically because it's become a thing. Or like you say, that it's like, I've said this to someone before who said that. I just press snooze and I do it 3 times. I'm like, why don't you just set your alarm for when you want to get up?
That's far too sensible, Pete. That's far too sensible. But that's what I do. I set the alarm for when I need to get up. And 9 times out of 10, I was talking to someone about this the other day. 9 times out of 10, I'm awake more than
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, 19 times out of 20, I'm awake before the alarm goes off, and the alarm never goes off anyway because I turn it off because I'm awake. But even my alarm regularly is going off at 20 past five, say quarter past five, 20 past five. Um, and I've never hit snooze because I know that, well, that's when I've got to get up,
Yeah.
so it's yeah, that is one of the.
I've even had the thing, right? So I train guys in the park behind my house, right? Which is there.
Yeah.
So they're like, they've said it before and they will say it again. They're like, it must be great for you. Just roll out of bed and walk down here. It must be. I'm like, no, I get up an hour before we're here. By the way, we start at 7. I get up at 6 because I'm
Yeah.
not going to roll out of bed and come down here. I'll be knackered and it'll be ridiculous. So I get up, I have a cup of coffee, I might read a bit or whatever. I get into the day and I do something before I go down there because if I went straight down there, I'd just be tired and
You'd be half asleep still.
it'd be
Yeah.
rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, what's your motivation?
I think that partly, like you, it is because I am the, like the figurehead, if you like, of the business. You know what I mean? And because we do the podcast every week, and because I've got unique results as well. So, like you say, there is a big part of me that is that why I do it, or is that just part of? Yeah, I'm just trying to think now that you've said that. A big part of it is that I want to grow old well. I want
Yeah.
to I want to be energetic with the kids, and I want to have fun, and I want to enjoy my life. I did a thing yesterday. I did a little post where I said that about, because someone was asking, and a lady who came in to see me was asking if it's more important to do cardio or strength training when you start, in your 50s. And I kind of said, well, cardiovascular training adds years to your life, but being strong and being mobile adds life to your years, and you're going to
Yeah.
be, and so I really want to enjoy life. And I've got so many people around me at the gym who are in their 60s and their 70s who are, training, going on holidays all the time, really energetic kind of examples of, where you can be in your mid to late 70s and be really, really active still. So that's probably more it. But I am conscious, like I say, of wanting to kind of keep myself in pretty good nick, and you know walking the walk, because we kind of
So
put ourselves out there.
I've just thought of something there, and this is brilliant because this is why I think it works because it creates like a cyclical thing. Because you it's similar reasons to me. Um, but so we'll do the podcast every week. Do we do that? Do we then are we then the person who walks the walk because we do the podcast, or we do the podcast because we walk the walk, or do they just both go together?
I
We've done
actually
it for so
quite,
long, so it's like, well, we might as well talk about it.
I actually quite like having that external pressure, a
Yeah,
little bit of external pressure, because I think that, and like you say, we get it from Paul McElroy, from our coach. There's an
yeah,
external pressure there. There's an unwritten, undiscussed external pressure from when you are in the health and fitness and wellness kind of space, that you want to walk the walk, as it were. You don't want to be a hypocrite. You don't want to be
yep.
one of these people. So there is a degree of pressure there as well. um and people kind of, whether it sounds a bit naff or whatever, people do kind of listen to what you say and look up to you a bit for advice and for for direction and things like that. So I think, so actually I really do think it's the same thing. If you make a declaration publicly, and we kind of make a declaration publicly every single week by doing this podcast,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
it's health oddity. So then we make that declaration publicly every single week, and then it is our responsibility to live up to that. If we came off the podcast and I walked out of this room and stood in my garden and started smoking a cigarette, or whatever, it wouldn't be, or puffing on a vape or whatever people do, I just don't think it wouldn't sit well with me in terms of authenticity, integrity, all of that kind of thing. So yeah, I think I agree.
It was funny the other day. It was last Friday. I've said when Sean gets in from work, like 5 o'clock on a Friday or whatever, we'll go down the pub and have a couple of pints because it's the end of the week. We'll have a good chat about how's your week been, all of that sort of stuff. It's good. It's nice for us to do, right? The lady who works behind the bar in the St James's where we went, she's got a dog and she's out walking a dog in the morning in the park, and I'm there training the guys, right? So I'm in the pub later on, and she's like, "I won't tell the guys you came in, by the way." And I'm like, "It doesn't matter, man. It's fine. I'm allowed to have a couple of beers, you know."
I know
It's how people start to think, isn't it? Oh, you're in health and fitness, therefore, your body is a temple and all that. It's like, no. There's balance. There's a way.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a way to do it all.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I think that, yeah, and like you say, I think we're very realistic as well, and I think that's the thing. We don't say things that do I have a pint every now and then? Yes,
Yeah.
And that's and I see that as part of the way I want to live my life. It's not
Yeah.
I'm not rolling out of bars drunk, you know what I mean? It's like if I want a pint, one afternoon in a garden or something, I will do it, and I think that's important because I think if you try to project and be like a monk or a saint or a nun or whatever, it kind of turns off most people anyway, because most people can't relate to that and don't want to do that.
Yes, exactly. But the thing is, it makes it even harder to sustain.
Mm,
And for most people, they just want they want a slight change in lifestyle. Most people think they want an overhaul,
mm,
or they think they have to overhaul it. Whereas all you need is a few slight changes that stick, and then another like habit stacking type of stuff and all of that.
yeah.
Like one slight change, make that stick, then another one, and then another one.
Mm, mm,
Um, but you don't need to keep doing that as well. That's the thing. You can
mm.
you can have a period of a few years where you're like, do you know what? I'm in equilibrium now. Everything's great, and I'm just going to do this for a while. Until it gets which ultimately comes to a point with comfort and stuff like that of, well, it now becomes a thing that I don't want as
Yeah.
life moves on or whatever. So
Mm,
I saw a post
mm.
from Mel today, actually, Mel Anderson. Mel
Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In one of her posts was like, I don't train like I used to. I
Mm,
now do this sort of stuff, and she's doing
mm,
lighter weights, but she moves every day and all of that. And it's like, I know people say, and we say, go down the gym and lift weights and
mm,
all of that, which is fine, but you don't have to lift super heavy. You
mm.
lift what's appropriate for you at your time of life and all of that. And hers was about that. She's like, I'd rather be able to move every day than be like ridiculously strong. And it's like, well,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
And that's what you want. And
that's what
whatever
most
you
people are after, aren't they? Yeah.
exactly. No, that's great. So is motivation a myth? That's interesting there. And so yeah, discipline and environment and habit. We'll add in that wins every time over motivation. Um
I also think the tribe thing is huge. And people say,
yeah.
find your tribe and all that. And it's one of those things that's kind of become I don't use it. I'll just say we've got a community. Do you want to come along? And that's it. I don't
Oh,
use
I don't think I've ever used that phrase in
no.
real life, apart from on here. I don't think
Yeah, it's
I've
fine.
ever
Some
used
people
that.
some people
Yeah,
do, and that's
yeah,
fine because some people
yeah,
love that sort of thing and all
yeah,
that. And I've
yeah,
actually read a book called Tribes, which is great. It's like you
yeah.
build something and then you give people things to do, and then everyone's got value within it.
Mm,
And
mm,
that's what we do.
mm,
But there's a guy who comes along who, when he first started, it was kind of funny. He sort of come along. It was him and his wife coming along, and his wife had been on more walks, and he decided to come on one of the longer ones. But he was like, he didn't really talk to many people and what have you. We've had loads of people like this, but this guy in particular. And then over the last year, it's been a year since he came. He was doing like just the long walks on the weekends. And this guy's lost 8 or 9 stone or something like that previously. Changed his life completely and everything. But then he started to dribble in a little bit more. And then there's a lady who walks quite fast at the front, and he got on really well with her. And he's a bit of a fast walker. So they were walking together. And his wife was with them and stuff like that. And then so he started to come a little bit more. And then now he's recruiting people. He's like telling everyone about it and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So he was kind of on the periphery and a bit not awkward, but maybe he's a bit antisocial, or just like, doesn't like being around people much because he hadn't found the right people, or maybe he's had friends who were all kind of down the pub all the time, and that's why he got big. And now he's in between like this group and that group, and he doesn't know where he fits or whatever. But he's now all the way in, and it's kind of, he's found his tribe, I suppose. You know what I mean? And we haven't forced it on him. We're just like, keep coming if you want. We're here. And he's come along, and then now he's, like I say, he's telling everyone about it. He recruited.
That's what you want. He's a raving fan.
Yeah, he recruited a Canadian lady who he'd met having a coffee, and she came along on some, and then she's then left to do the Camino, and two of her friends are here from Canada for a couple of months, and they've been on 5 or 6 walks, and he's been giving them a lift to the walks and stuff. Yeah. And he's on Strava. I see him on Strava, and his last walk he did was like Bath City tour guide, because he'd shown them around. You know what I mean? So he's like, all of a sudden, he's become that guy, which is brilliant.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Brilliant. No, that's really, really good. No, that's great. And I think that's interesting. We'll do more of these where we kind of maybe not pose a question, we pose a question, and then we'll just discuss it. Because I think these are interesting topics, and it's great having guests on and talking to guests about different things in their lives. And I think next week we've got a guest on again. But these discussions are really, I really enjoy them, and they're really interesting because like you say, they cause you to sit and think, and sometimes this is a nice hour to sit and think and to talk and to ponder things, which is brilliant.
What's great is the discussion, though, because I think about these things a lot. Like, I don't necessarily formally think about them. Just when reading the Tao or going through something, you'll get an insight, and then you're like, right, I'm going to go with that and take it for a few days. But then it's good to have a chat about it as well, because then you get another side to it, or a different like angle to it or whatever. So we can maybe get some questions from our listeners about things like that. Is motivation a myth? All this sort of stuff. So
no, brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Pete, and thank you everybody for watching and listening. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially Apple Podcasts. We would love some more Apple Podcast reviews, and give us a follow on YouTube if you don't already. We will be back next week for episode, what did I say it would be next week? 298 next week.
Yes.
So we really are closing.
Well done.
We really are closing in on that 300 episodes, which will be a big fanfare when we get there. But yeah, thank you everybody for your continued support, and we will see you next week. Until then, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.